Hello guys, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about regulations and what sets are going to rotate out in 2026, right? So what is the timer looking like for these sets, and when can you get in before, it's too late? Now, you might notice some background noise. I am currently traveling, visiting New York City, having a good time. So unfortunately, not gonna have the best mic quality, but it is what it is. I'm gonna keep the daily uploads going because that's what they're all about. But anyway, let's get into this. So the standard format rotation for 2025 competitive play started on April 11th, 2025. Now, if you've been involved with Pokemon TCG or VGC at all, or any of the Pokemon competitive formats, you know that this is very normal, right? You rotate out certain things and you rotate in certain things to keep the meta fresh. This happens in VGC as well, but more for specific Pokemon. In this case, what goes in and out of rotation generally depends on the mark at the bottom of a card. I don't know why they chose the worst. Here we go. This is a better picture. So you can see there's an F. So this is only available when Regulation F is still in play, right? So we can see right now cards with the F regulation mark will no longer be legal for play in the 2025 standard format, and G and H are now legal to use. However, moving forward, players should expect the cards with the oldest legal regulation mark to rotate out of the standard format when a new one is introduced. So that means for the next format in next year, right, when we get to April something 2026, and the standard rotation goes into effect next year as well, we will basically see Regulation G fall out, and then I'm guessing maybe I will come, or A, maybe they'll restart it with Mega Evolutions. I'm not too sure how that entirely works. I'm more of a VGC guy, if you couldn't tell. But in any case, this is something that I know a little bit about, and what tends to happen, right, when they rotate out a regulation like F, right, because F was Sword and Shield cards, so you can see it's a yellow border card. So this was in the previous era. Once we hit, a point where Pokemon realizes that there's not necessarily a need for competitive players to have these cards, they don't tend to print them as much, if not at all. Now, obviously, there are exceptions to this rule. There are no hard, fast rules in this sense. If I remember correctly, I think Evolutions was probably printed way after, right? There are definitely some occasions where they could do that, and they might do it. So, stay on your toes. I could see 151 being a set they still keep on printing. But generally, not only does this mean that they're going to print less of the Regulation G sets, but it also means that people are going to be more okay with spending a lot of money on them, because they see them as expired. They see them as, or not expired, but out of print, right? They see them as something that will probably not go down. And, in this sense, we have to kind of start looking at Regulation G as a timer, right, for a lot of these sets. Now, what includes Regulation G? Well, the cutoff for Regulation G is Scarlet and Violet base all the way up to Paldean Fates. How do you know that we're in Regulation G for those sets? If you take a look at Temporal Forces, which is the one after Paldean Fates, let's take a look at Raging Bolt over here. You can see a little Regulation H in the corner. So this is going to kind of stay in the new format. Meanwhile, if we go to the Bubble Mew, Paldean Fates, this is a Regulation G card. It says right down to the bottom there. And so when we're looking at these cards, right, and we're looking at these sets, what should we be investing in? Well, as I always say, you want your money to work for you, right, especially when you're investing into Pokemon. So we want to be investing into sets that have the, least chance of getting reprints, least chance of volatility, and generally is just going to see as much of an upward trajectory as possible. What does this mean? This means that Paldean Fates, this means that 151, Paldea Evolved, SV Base, Paradox, and Obsidian Flames are all good buys. I don't know why I went out of order there, but you might have, noticed that in my last video, I was kind of trashing on a lot of these sets, saying that these could get reprints by the end of the year, and that you should buy Sword and Shield right now. And I'm still kind of holding on to that. I still do think you should be prioritizing Sword and Shield right now. I don't think it's going to get any cheaper, and once Sword and Shield reaches a new leg up, you are going to wish you had some. I think right now is a great chance because a lot of them have fallen 10 to 20% from their all-time highs, and I could definitely see them skyrocketing after that. But that doesn't mean that I'm telling you to necessarily ignore all of these older sets as well. In my opinion, what I think is going to happen is that Regulation G is still legal for the rest of this year. And that means that I would kind of avoid buying definitely a lot of the stuff that is in Regulation G, right? Like, really avoid, temporal maybe, but really avoid Twilight Up in my head. Um, I do think that Twilight could see another reprint. The boxes have reached 300. Surging Sparks again. I think Pokemon is really, you know, they're honing in on Surging Sparks with the ETBs and Booster Bundle reprints. Prismatic 100% is going to get a ton of reprints. Journey and Destined is not even like a question to me that they're going to get reprints. This is just obvious. Don't buy Bacchus for 300 right now. You are trolling if you do that. I'm not going to lie. Look, if you're holding for 5 to 10 years, yes, it's not going to matter if you bought at 300, but I'm just saying, like, there are better entry points, right? But the window is definitely closing for Paldean 151, Paldea Evolved, Scarlet and Violet base. And as we get closer to, G getting rotated out, these do have a chance of kind of skyrocketing. So, I want to tell you to be cautious and not overpay for things. If you can find 151 bundles, I think those are right now at a pretty good price per pack in comparison to the ETBs, in comparison to a lot of other stuff. Blooming Waters as well, not bad. I believe we got 151 bundle reprints, like a Walmart drop just happened recently. So guys, we're still getting new supply of it. If you can, keep buying into it. Paldean Fates, don't know what's going on with the Pokemon Company. They refuse to reprint Paldean Fates. Genuinely at a loss for words why, but I would personally recommend the bundle display, but again, we could see reprints in the holiday season. I could definitely see that happening because, obviously Pokemon anticipates selling much more during Christmas time when you're giving gifts to kids. Because, guys, I know people in the comments section hate when I say this, but Pokemon is a kid's game first and foremost. It just is. And that's the reason that it's able to survive for so long, because each new generation of kids gets hooked into Pokemon, and then later down the line they get nostalgic and they want to buy into it. Yes, there are tons of adults that enjoy Pokemon. I am one of them, but I'm just saying that it is primarily a kid's game. And so a lot of these, holiday reprints, they're going to come in during the holiday season, right? In Christmas. That's when I think a lot of the reprints for these specialty sets might hit. However, there is definitely a case to be made that maybe they just start ignoring Regulation G and they just start reprinting H as much as possible, especially given the fact that Destined, Journey, and Prismatic have literally not seen MSRP. Same with Black Bolt and White Flare. These have not seen MSRP a single moment of their being released. And I'm not saying like, oh, you could have bought them at GameStop for MSRP. I'm saying like the market price never reached MSRP necessarily. Journey, I think, is the only one that got close, right? Black Bolt and White Flare definitely getting reprints. Like, these are all getting reprints for sure. And so that is definitely why I would advocate, if you can, always buy kind of older stuff. So that's how regulations get rotated in and out. I'm not an expert on the TCG necessarily, so if I missed anything or if I made any mistakes about how the format rotates and when it rotates, please let me know. But yeah, guys, that's just going to be a pretty quick and simple video on how TCG formats rotations could affect reprints, how they could affect prices going forward. And just keep your eye on the market, have a finger on the pulse to just see what is going on. Maybe might not be the best time to buy, but if you see some reprints of the holiday season and you notice that a lot of the G regulation stuff is getting reprinted, definitely buy into them. And that's why I would actually say Paradox is a good buy right now. Obsidian Flames ETBs and Paldea Evolved ETBs, I believe, are still undervalued considering the amazing promo they have in them. The Obsidian Flames ETB promo is literally worth $20. So you're basically buying the Obsidian Flames ETB for $80 because of the promo is already cutting that by $20. And in my opinion, I think that promo is going to keep going up. Paldea Evolved, not the same deal, but very similar. And again, Scarlet and Violet base, I've said this before. I think the PC ETBs are actually the best performing thing. They're very scarce. They were very underprinted, and people love the legendaries, right? Because they're actually rideable. In this game, if you didn't play Scarlet and Violet, you can ride the legendaries. You get the legendary as soon as you like boot open the game. It is very instant, and so they're part of you the entire journey. So I think a lot of kids are actually going to love the Scarlet and Violet legendaries. Kind of a random tangent, but that's why I think the promos and the PC ETBs will actually be pretty cool in the future. So that's why I have some PC ETBs of SV base. I think those are a great investment. 151, obviously, Paladin Fates I've talked about. Paradox, not bad. I actually like Temporal over Paradox in general, but if we're talking just from a regulation standpoint, Paradox might be the better buy right now because it has a lower chance of getting the reprints, lower chance of hitting all those kind of volatility things that we're talking about. But in any case, I think if you buy anything from the regulation G, block, and you just wait 2 to 3 years, you will be up on your money. I nitpick about the specific time to buy, especially for like 151. Right now, I just saw some ETBs in the vending machines, and I'm like, are we getting a reprint? So that's one I would hold off on. But again, like even if you bought at the peak right now, every market shows that as long as you hold, it doesn't matter. The market always goes up. This happens in the stock market. This happens in the Pokemon market. Just hold for the long term. You are buying new product. It's going to go up later down the line, especially for this Regulation G stuff. But yeah, what do you guys think about the regulations rotating? Do you think it's going to have a big effect on the Pokemon market as a whole? Thanks so much for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys later.